So of course, one of the first questions that I've been getting a lot of is, well, actually, maybe I should start with this other question. How did this trip evolve? First of all, I was not planning it at all. My idea was to go to Cote d'Ivoire for 6 months and then determine there whether I wanted to continue. And then what happened along the way is I didn't want to fully commit to coming back to the United States with a round trip ticket. Open-ended tickets, I honestly believe do not exist. People tell me about them, but I've never been able to find them. And of course, I tried again, but no option about an open-ended ticket anywhere. So I think they're really more of a relic of the past before the internet got involved with travel. So I decided rather to buy a round trip ticket back home to the States, I would simply buy a round trip ticket, or should I say first, buy a one trip ticket from Seattle to Paris, and then a round trip ticket from Paris to Abidjan and back. So I had this round trip ticket to take you back to Paris. So basically, at the end of 6 months, I had a trip back to Paris that I had to use, and I knew that if I wanted to go back to Cote d'Ivoire, then it would just be a simple matter of flying back from Europe to Cote d'Ivoire. So I thought, okay, well, I'll have a little time to hang out in Europe, which will be cool because I absolutely love the Europe. And then slowly things started to kind of build up. I remembered that I had a good friend in Germany that I hadn't seen for quite a few years, and I wanted to go see him. I'd never been to Germany. So I added that on. Okay, I'm going to go see Douglas then. And then my friend Sarah got engaged. She lives in England, and I was super excited to hear about her engagement. I really wanted to go, and I love England. So I go, okay, I'll attach that on. And I go, well, hey, Sarah, when's your date? And she goes, well, June 16th. And I go, okay, because I was leaving Africa at the end of May. So I go, oh, okay, well, I can go. I can go there and I'll find something to do in between. I knew more people, so I started to kind of gather more information about people I could visit. And then I started slowly kind of filling the blanks, the possibilities with people in more people in Germany, some in Switzerland, and then I started to get this idea that maybe I wanted to spend more time in France. My 1 week in November of last year was great. I loved France and I wanted to experience more, and I wanted to improve more on my French. And I thought, well, why don't I just stay for another month? And so I looked into some other possibilities, talked to a few more friends who knew people in France, and therefore I had another month. So basically, what could have been a possible maybe 2 week trip to Paris ended up being a 3 month trip to Europe. And that's basically how I started on this crazy journey. So along the way, what has happened? A number of things. Probably one of the first questions you might be wondering is what was the best part of my trip? The best part of my trip, as far as I felt the most like, wow, this is great, was really when I was in Paris. I had about a few days in Paris before I took off to Germany, and I spent it with my friend Alex. And Alex is not from Paris, he's from Troyes, where my other friend David is, and he loves Paris. And it was kind of neat to kind of see Paris through his eyes. He would walk me through the city, talk about things, and then just you know just I could feel his enthusiasm, and I wanted to feel that. I was falling in love with Paris already, so I wanted to feel that even more. And plus, it just inspired me. I wanted to speak French more. I wanted to connect more with this city. I loved his apartment. He lived in this little apartment that is, or still does, I should say, this little apartment in Upper North that was just very quaint and nice and small and simple and up high, so you could open your windows and look out and see the city, lean over and watch just the ordinary French life, I guess you could call it. And to me, that was probably one of the best parts of the trip. And I still to this day love going to Paris. To me, it's probably becoming my next favorite place in the world next to Australia. Gertrude Stein once said of Paris, well, first of all, that America is my country, but Paris is my hometown, and I feel like I'm getting there the way Paris is for me. Um, Interesting moments. The only real interesting moment I can that really comes to mind on the trip, and interesting being a bit bizarre or a little again uncertain, was when I was traveling to Sweden. and I wasn't flying from Germany to Sweden. I was taking a train, so I was bumping trains along, which was pretty cool actually, because you get to see so much countryside, and you have that little bit of time to sit, look out the window, and really reflect. But anyway, I had kind of made the mistake to book a train ride that was going to get me into Gothenburg in Sweden at 11 o'clock at night. And I made the mistake of being a little presumptuous regarding my friends. I thought, well, they're not going to mind. They know I'm traveling far and they'll come and get me at 11. But I didn't say anything about it. I had made the reservation like months ahead of time. I didn't say anything to them about it. I said, oh, I'll just let them know when the time approaches. Well, when the time approached and I told them I was going to be arriving at 11 o'clock in Gothenburg, they live about a half hour, 45 minutes away. And they informed me, we can't pick you up. We got to get up to work at 4, so we can't get you. And, fair enough. I understood that. I wasn't upset. And I just go, well, you know what I'll do is I'll just book a place to stay, and I'll go ahead and just wait for the next day, basically wait till sunrise. And they just said, no, don't worry about that. Ultimately, they said, well, we'll have our friend go and get you, and you can go stay with him. So as I'm going along, I receive a text that Patrick, that was his name, he was going to pick me up at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, oh, okay, no problem. I'll just wait in the train station. I really, I really wasn't too nervous about it. I just figured I'm the one who goofed up, and I have to wait. That's just it. I have to wait. So I got into the train station at Gothenburg at 11, and I automatically texted my friends and told them where I was in the train station. And I figured I would just wait it out in the train station. It was a secure point. And so I told him where I was in the train station. Well, come 1 o'clock, which was when Patrick was supposed to arrive, and he hadn't, the security guards started basically to kick everybody out of the train station. We had to vacate. And at that point, I was outside. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Patrick hadn't come, and I was waiting outside. And I realized that this brother, Patrick, he's not going to know where I am because I'm not where I was when I talked to my friends. I was outside somewhere. I didn't know where. I didn't want to bother my friends. I figured they were still asleep, telling them where I was. So the only option I had was hopefully for this Patrick person who was supposed to come, was I had to just make myself as visible as possible and get closest to wherever I said I was. And so I'm waiting there, and kind of in the meantime, I'm just kind of like seeing men walk past me, kind of walking up to them going, are you Patrick? Are you Patrick? And then at one point I thought I really found Patrick. It was funny. He was looking at me kind of with some intent or, some type of purpose. And he's coming towards me, and I'm like, okay, this must be Patrick because he looks like he's looking for somebody. And then I'm like walking up, hey, are you Patrick? And he's like, no. Do you have any hashish? And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. No, I don't have any hashish. And I'm like, oh, great, it's not Patrick. So 1:30 is rolling around, and I'm thinking, okay, this Patrick dude he's never gonna find me. And I actually didn't start getting nervous. I just figured, you know what, if I had to sleep on the street, fine. I'm gonna find the coziest corner on the street, under an eave, hopefully, and just hang out and wait till sunrise and wait till my friends Tom and Ulrika possibly can come get me because I'm really not thinking this Patrick person's gonna find me. But I don't stop. I basically try to make myself as visible as possible. So I kind of get on a main drag in front of the train station with this beaming street light on me. And I think, dude, I am so perfect right now to be mugged because I have all this luggage on me. And it's like, hey, traveler, come get me. Take my money. Take my things. Blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I'm thinking I need to be visible for Patrick. And at one point, this car kind of stops at the stoplight. And again, somebody's kind of looking at me, and I'm kind of looking at him. And I wave. And he waves back, and I'm like, oh, great, this is Patrick. And then he just drives past. And I'm like, oh, okay, he must not be Patrick then. He's just being somebody who's really friendly. So I'm like, okay. Maybe I realized at that point, okay, this part of the station that said I was in, I realized that it's actually quite bigger. So I realized that, okay, maybe this Patrick person's gonna go meet me over there. So I walk all the way over there. I hang out there some more, and finally, Patrick shows up. And Patrick is the person I saw at the other light, and I go, "Well, what happened?" And he's like, "You drove past me." And he goes, "Well, I didn't see the. I saw the bus lane. I didn't want to get in, and I was gonna wrap around and come get you, and then you were gone." And I'm just like, "Oh goodness, this is crazy." So anyway, that was probably the most interesting point of the trip, and not that super interesting, but it was unusual because I was actually facing a possibility that I may actually have to be sleeping on the street. Um, Another thing that's been great about this trip and interesting is about discovering the reality of stereotypes. And when I talk about stereotypes in this interview, I'm not talking about in a negative way. Uh, Stereotypes usually are applied in a negative way, but I mean, there's truth to stereotypes in a positive way about what generally characterizes a people as far as personality traits. I mean, they're just truth as to how certain people go about life, how they view things, how they uphold things, their values, so on and so forth. So it's been kind of interesting to see these characteristics that I've heard about so much actually being demonstrated in the people. I think probably one of the first times that I realized this on the trip was when I was in Germany, and I came to realize the reality of German efficiency. I always thought that applied, yeah, to things like maybe the military, government, technology. People praise German efficiency and technology, but I didn't realize that it was a mindset. It really was a way of life for these people, and you see it kind of permeated in just the daily things. And in a way, I was very impressed by it because I was seeing little innovations, inventions, things that they did that just kind of made sense and made life a little easier. And then to kind of see in the mindset in people about how they would do things with forethought, basically, which is so much away from how I think. If many of you know me, yeah. Anyway, so it's like if you do this now, then this happens, and then we don't have to worry about this, which of course is the key to efficiency about utilizing what's there and not wasting. And that was really neat to see. That was really an attribute to the German people about how they don't waste and they're smart about their lives in that way. I think when it comes to the French people, I did come in with some perceptions of how they were supposed to be. I was terrified about going in the ministry in French because I had heard for so many years that they're really mean. You know, my friend told me an expression in French called claque le nez, which basically, nez being your nose, uh, doors being slammed in your face. And I mean, I knew the French were like a lot of people in Europe, very secularized due to, religion just totally jacking them up and them being very distrustful of organized religion. I understood that. Um, but I kept hearing about how nasty they were, and the reality was they weren't. They actually have not lived up to the stereotype. Or I shouldn't say lived up. I should say they aren't really following the stereotype that I thought they would follow. Americans tend to have a romanticism about the French, but at the same time they'll carry those old connotations that French people are rude, that they will totally mock you for speaking their language, and that was never the case. I mean, even in the ministry, granted, people weren't interested. They never came off to me as rude or mean. Um, Regarding the language, I don't think I've had so many compliments on my French than I have here. And I don't think I speak French the greatest. It's still a work in progress for me, but in all honesty, to be complimented on it and by native French speakers um, has been nice. It's been really encouraging, and it makes me feel that I haven't wasted 5 years in trying to learn this language. And then one thing that I felt like I kind of pinpointed regarding the French people um, was they really are they're very reserved. I think more than other uh, European nations. Um, but I find that they're rather apologetic. Excuse me, unapologetic, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I almost seem that they're okay with who they are and what they're about, and they don't apologize for it. There's a security to that, whether it be with who they are as people, how they go about things, even physically how they look. I don't They don't seem to be at all like, oh. Um, at least not from my perspective. And there's like they're secure in themselves. And for someone who works on being more secure, again, I find that truly awesome, truly remarkable to be around people that don't worry so much about what other people think of them. I mean, there's obviously a balance of things, but I think for the most part it was interesting to kind of go, that's it about them. That's what is kind of their thing, is they are not at all apologetic about who they are. And again, that is something really cool, really refreshing. So another thing, what am I taking away from this trip? I think a concrete fear. You know, I know the importance of having to do that. I'm not very good at it. I live my life constantly in worry and perplexed about what's going to happen to me or to others. I worry about rejection and other things from people. But again, you just have to manage it. You have to live with it. You can't live your life scared. And really, the beauty about fear is when you overcome it. Because once you overcome it, you just see more possibility. Because when you overcome something that you honestly thought you couldn't do, and you do it, you do it, you're just like, wow, what else can I do? What else is out there? And that's kind of one of the things I've been learning on this trip. All those little things that I worry about, and when I get past them, I'm like, okay, that wasn't so bad, and maybe I can take on others. And um, that's one of the things that I've truly come to appreciate in this trip. Um, Another thing that I've just come to terms with in the last few weeks is unfulfilled expectation. And this was because this came out actually in our regional convention. I went to a regional convention of Jehovah's Witnesses just a couple weeks ago, and there was the theme of it was "Do not give up," and it's talking about our enduring. It's all about endurance in these last days, and how badly we need it, and how we can cultivate it. And there was a certain symposium part about how we can imitate the endurance of people in Bible times. And one character that was cited was the daughter of Jephthah. And when I looked over, I mean, I knew the story of Jephthah's daughter. Basically, in short, Jephthah, a judge or leader in Israel, promises Jehovah God that if he is given victory over his enemies, then he will give whoever comes out of his door up for temple service for the rest of their life. And so he wins the battle. He comes home, and the first one who greets him is his only daughter. And that's it. He knows what he has promised Jehovah, and he must give her to the temple service. But of course, the big part of it is the implication on her and what this is going to mean for her life. She's basically going to have to live up to a promise that was not that she didn't make, and what that was going to entail for her. So anyway, there's the story. But when I looked at this on the program, I just thought, well, what did she have to endure? Well, she had to endure a circumstance that was not her own, or a circumstance that she couldn't help. But the speaker put it at an angle that I never thought of. What she had to endure was unfulfilled expectation. And that was interesting to me because, well, for her, the unfulfilled expectation was that she was not going to live the normal life of an Israelite girl. She would never know what it was like to be married, to have a family, which at those times was the most important thing for a young woman. It's what a young woman wanted, was to live like that. And now she was basically going to go and live a life at the temple, uh, taking care of the temple needs and so forth, whatever way they were going to need her. And there was, in the account, there's a period where she does go and mourn. She mourns for 2 months, and then she goes off to the temple to live the rest of her life out, forever single and never knowing what it's like to be married and to have children. And when we think about it in terms for us, as when things are not, when we have expectations and they're not realized, it is hard. It's very difficult, and it is something that you need to endure. Because a lot of times what happens with expectations unfulfilled is they will never be unfulfilled. So we could spend the rest of our lives mourning over that. And granted, there is a period of mourning. I mean, Jeff's daughter had 2 months. But what can happen with a lot of us, and which hello includes me, is that you can dwell on it so much to where it brings you down and it makes life even harder. And so when I heard that part, a light kind of clicked for me, because there are a few unfulfilled expectations in my life that I've been dwelling on while I was away. Things back home in Seattle, things, and I would just wonder about them and just wish that things had worked out. But there's a point where I have to let go. I have to just say, okay, that's what it is, and there's more to life. The speaker shared a scripture that I had never paid attention to. I know I'd read it because I've read the Bible a few times, but in Ecclesiastes 6:9, where he basically summed it up as saying that you cannot live with what if. You have to count your blessings. It's just something that I need to work on, and I need to basically be okay with. Yeah, unfulfilled expectation. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to grapple with, and not that it's stopping me. Obviously, I'm moving on with my life, but I could probably have some better days, and really just have more peace of mind if I really was better at letting go and being okay with things not coming out the way I did. I mean, life is filled with that, so why should I expect anything different for me? So what's next for me? What's next for me is that I'm going back to Africa in about a week's and a half time. I'm going to be going to Burkina Faso and spending a week there, and then go back to Cote d'Ivoire and try to get more of a situation pinned down, find my own place, get things situated a little bit for me, get my work going online. I'm with an English company right now called Golden Voice, and hopefully I can really, I'm still with Tutor ABC, and I'm going to see what I can do. If I can still try and make a living off that. I mean, you don't really have to make a whole lot as far as US dollars in Cote d'Ivoire to live well. I mean, get by and live with a little bit of comfort. And then hopefully I'll get that figured out. And then in October, I take off. The main objective is to go to the special convention in Jakarta in Indonesia, but along the way I'm planning on visiting friends in Thailand and Australia, and I'm really excited about that. Granted, I'm a little worn out with the travel, believe it or not, but I did tell my friends I would go see them, and that's important. So you keep your word, you go see your friends, and it'll be great. Every moment will be fantastic, and I'm sure of that. And after that, I don't really know, provided that if things go well in Cote d'Ivoire, if I can get a nice situation figured out for myself, and also just how I feel. I mean, if I feel like I can do this, if I wouldn't say I'm homesick, but at the same time, home is home, and life is going on without me, and it would be nice to, I don't know, touch base. So I don't know. It just depends what happens in really September with what's happening out there and what's happening in here, and of course a prayerful meditation on it and see what Jehovah says, what he indicates to me, and really balancing what I want with my responsibilities to him. So we'll see. I don't know. Again, uncertainty, and it's just uncertainty. I just don't know what's going to happen. But I know that it's kind of a cool position to be in because it means you're open to anything.